The Merrimack, New Hampshire School Board, which has played host to a flurry of ideological battles this past year, is once again the center of controversy. By the closest of margins, the vote was 3-2, the school boards approved a policy prohibiting schools from providing any program or activity that supports or encourages homosexuality as a positive lifestyle alternative. Now, critics claim the policy is hateful and amounts to gay bashing. Consider this. Chief Correspondent Don Teague went to Merrimack today to get reaction to that new school policy.
Merrimack has all the makings of a typical New Hampshire town. Quiet country roads, a bustling business district, and political controversy. Differences between people like Ellen KOLB and Randy Kottwitz. Differences that are threatening to tear the community apart.
We're in every paper in the country, and as a Merrimack citizen, I'm sick of it.
At the center of this debate is what Merrimack schools should teach the children of this community, specifically what they should teach them about sex and homosexuality.
We want to make sure that our religious beliefs are not going to be undermined in the public schools.
Earlier this week, Merrimack's school board approved a policy preventing schools from encouraging homosexuality as a positive lifestyle. Ellen KOLB supported the measure, calling it a preemptive effort to keep the gay lifestyle out of the school's health curriculum.
If a parent wants to do that, no problem. My concern is that the schools are usurping the function of the parents, and my concern is that public dollars are being used.
It's not a preemptive strike per se. It is an aggressive strike. It is a negatively aggressive strike.
Randy Kottwitz led a candlelight vigil to protest the school board vote.
There was no proposal made here to teach this in a positive light, and there was going to be no proposal made to teach this in a positive light. This has not been a problem in this school system all along.
The problem, according to Kottwitz, is homophobia.
This motion is not about the health curriculum. Although it came up under discussion of the health curriculum, it is an addition to school district policy. So it applies across the board to all courses, all counseling, all books, anything that happens on the school grounds.
In the middle, of course, are Merrimack students. Many parents on both sides of the issue say it's time to move the focus away from politics and back where it belongs, on kids.
Sick of the controversy myself.
Really?
I wish people would stop playing politics with our schools and let them go back to what they used to be, which is to educate the kids.
I don't really feel that gay rights or gay things should be promoted in the schools. However, I'm really tired of things being brought up as hot topics over and over and over again. I think we should go back to education issues and talk about them.
Well, tired of those hot topics or not, they are still very much on the minds of citizens in Merrimack and parents. I came upon several today reading about the issue in today's newspaper on the front page.
Don, is there any organized group behind the school board's agenda?
Well, that depends, of course, on who you ask. Those who oppose the action taken by the school board say the Christian Coalition is really behind this, but Ellen KOLB, the parent I spoke to, said this is simply a grassroots effort by concerned parents. She says if the Christian Coalition were officially behind it, you'd know.
Thanks, Don. In a moment, we'll talk to Mr. Kottwitz, whom you met, a resident of Merrimack who opposes the school board's agenda, and the chairman of a Massachusetts organization that promotes Judeo-Christian values in the schools, Brian Camenker, when we come back.
The Merrimack, New Hampshire School Board votes in a new policy which supporters say prohibits the promotion of homosexuality as a positive lifestyle alternative. Critics say it goes even farther than that it prevents counseling for gay students, that it allows censorship of books and provides only for a negative portrayal of homosexuals.
These are strong charges, and for opponents of the new policy, the issue goes beyond the charges of gay bashing. They say there are free speech issues involved as well. So tonight we're going to take a look at both sides, and we're joined by Randal Kottwitz. He's a resident of Merrimack. You met him in the piece for 13 years. He became involved in school board issues last January during the debate regarding a proposal calling for teaching creationism as part of the science curriculum, organized a protest vigil outside this week's school board meeting for victims of gay teen suicide, gay teen violence. 600 people participated, making it one of the largest gay rights, civil rights gatherings in New Hampshire history. Also joining us is Brian Camenker. He's chairman of the Interfaith Coalition, a Massachusetts-based group of community leaders, educators, and clergy concerned about the decline of Judeo-Christian values in our society, and particularly that decline's effects on our children. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Before we proceed to the discussion, though, would you read exactly what it was that the school board voted, what, 3-2?
3-2.
To implement throughout the system.
And it's very important that both sentences be read. The first part, the Merrimack School District shall neither implement nor carry out any program or activity that has either the purpose or effect of encouraging or supporting homosexuality as a positive lifestyle alternative, has far less objectionability to it than the second sentence. It continues, a program or activity for purposes of this item includes the distribution of instructional materials, instruction, counseling, or other services on school grounds, or referral of a pupil to an organization that affirms a homosexual lifestyle.
How is that gay bashing?
Well, I'm not necessarily one of the ones that says it is particularly gay bashing, but certainly gay bashing is behind it. The list of items that's included in the second sentence here in terms of what will be restricted goes way over the line of free speech. Both in terms of materials that are going to be within the school system, monitoring what teachers can say, and also monitoring what guidance counselors can say to children in trouble.
Do you see that there, Brian Camenker? Do you see those same things in that sentence?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, it's interesting that how the free speech issue is brought out, because the subject of homosexuality in the schools is simply not a debatable topic in this day and age. There are not two sides, there is only one side to this question. What is homosexuality? Is it a lifestyle? Is it an offense against God? Is it a mental health problem? There's simply no debate that is allowed on this. There is one and one view only that is allowed to have happen. Parents have a big problem when people from the outside go into the public schools and say everything that you've always thought about sexuality and homosexuality is wrong, we know better, and we're going to tell your children without asking you first.
But what about the parents of gay children? Does the school system have the right to tell the children that they are evil people and not enforce the parents' rights in that? And worse yet, what about gay parents? Does the school system have the right to tell the children that their parents are evil people?
The school system should not be involved in the homosexuality business, pro or con.
I agree, and this motion makes it only con. It limits it to only one class of speech. It can only be presented in a negative light. It can't be discussed freely and openly. Therefore, it limits what goes on in the school system to only present it in that negative light.
You know, the problem has been that it isn't ever presented in anything but a positive light in the school system.
It hasn't been presented at all in the Merrimack school systems. This was something that was put forward before anything was in any health curriculum that had anything to do with this.
Well, I can tell you what happens in my school system here in Massachusetts. The policy by the state is that if a child is determined to be unsure of his sexuality, he can be taken to homosexual counselors without telling the parents.
Brian, that doesn't apply in New Hampshire. We don't have those rules there. We don't have those laws there. That does not exist in this situation. This is something that has been put in place all on its own, not in contrary to something that was in place, but as a preemptive strike.
You're concerned about the reference to basic things like referrals to organizations that affirm a gay lifestyle. Now, what are we talking about?
Yes,
it is, because what this says is that if a lesbian student goes to her counselor and her counselor wants to send her to her Episcopal bishop, she can't do that because the Episcopal Church affirms a homosexual lifestyle, as do 4 other major denominations.
Why not let the parents make the decision?
Because the fact of the matter is, and all the research says this, that in 1 out of 4 cases, a gay youth becomes homeless over conflicts over their sexuality at home. So it's not the isolated
case. I've
case.
Seen that kind of statistics. But that is a big problem, where you're saying the parents have the wrong values. We need to improve on those values.
No.
We need to go around the parents. I'm sorry. When I have minor children in the school system, I don't want you coming in and saying your values are wrong. We're going to counsel your children because you're not doing your job.
And that's not what we're asking to do.
What kind of instructional materials would be prohibited by this ordinance?
Well, of course, this is still open to interpretation. In fact, the superintendent of Schools is having a very hard time writing the implementation of this policy because there is no model for it anywhere in the country. This is the first time something this severe has been done, so he's having to make it up out of whole cloth.
What kind of books would you object to that might be in an instructional curriculum?
Oh, there's a very interesting book in the, I think it's a Silver Lake High School, or one of those, where it said to 9th graders, if you feel uncomfortable having sex with people of your own sex, you should feel more comfortable having sex with those of the same sex. And the values of your parents may not be appropriate to you.
You're bringing up something that, again, doesn't apply to the Merrimack situation. This is not what has been going on in Merrimack, and that's what we're talking about here.
It's been going on everywhere else. That's the problem.
That's simply
everywhere
not
else.
the case.
And the fears that you have haven't happened anywhere.
What about the tentacles of this kind of policy? How far-reaching of an impact do you think it can have?
Well, this is the problem. It leaves itself open to such wide interpretation. Are we going to remove all history books that have references to Alexander the Great? Are we going to tell our musical groups that they can't perform works by Tchaikovsky? Are we going to tell our kids they can't eat Hershey bars?
You know, that is so idiotic. You know,
but that's what it leaves it open to.
Well,
if that's what they meant, then why, when the vice chairman proposed a motion that was really basically the first sentence and didn't include counseling and instructional materials and everything else, did the board reject it?
A quick comment from you.
The liberals very effectively do that with religion. Very effectively.
I didn't talk directly to the point, but you're out of time. I'm sorry. Brian Camenker, Randy Kottwitz, thank you both for joining us. In a moment, a background.